Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good, presented by Betches Media. Today, I needed this serotonin boost, and maybe you do too. Now, this man is everything. He is an author. His books, How Do I Unremember This, and The Jolliest Bunch, which is now in paperback. You need to pick it up for the holiday season. They're both out there, and they're amazing. His hit podcast, Everything Iconic, provides listeners an escape multiple times a week. And he's a podcaster that, for people like me, we all look up to. And now he is finishing 2024 in the strongest way possible by not only writing, but acting in his very first Hallmark holiday film, Deck the Walls, coming out November 29th on the Hallmark channel. Set your DVRs right now. We will wait. The one, the only, Danny Pellegrino. Welcome back.
Hi. Hello. Hi, Ryan. I'm so excited to be here. And I was just smiling through that whole intro. Thank you so much for having me, as always. And also, I'm so glad I get to be here because we were texting about your interview with JC Chazet. And I can't even tell you how happy I was that you interviewed him, because I had interviewed him recently as well, and I forgot a question. And to me, it was the most important question that I forgot, because it was whether or not he had known Sheena Shea from Vanderpump Rules. And I swear to you, when you prepare for these interviews, it's like sometimes when you get excited, you have a million questions, and then you're like, I got to make sure I hit this one, that one, that one. And that was truly, madly, deeply like one of the questions that I was like, I have to ask this, because I heard these rumors. I think Sheena had told me maybe on her show or somewhere that she, maybe knew him or whatever. And I forgot to ask. And so when you texted me, I was like over the moon. So I'm so glad that you got to ask JC that question.
Well, Danny,
it was important.
Danny, this is how generous is. Danny provided me with probably the best moment of the JC Chazet interview, even though he was amazing. But I texted Danny originally, and this is what I love about this community, is that I just said, hey man, is JC nice? Because I always just get overly nervous about everything. And you're like, oh, he's the nicest. And then I listened to your interview with him. And for my interview, it was a little stricter, not from JC, but from his publicists, his PR people. So it really had to be based on this musical. And I could have like 2 questions about like NSYNC or whatever I wanted to ask for. And then Danny goes, oh, by the way, ask this potentially. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to sneak this in, but he was so nice. So I finally went for it at the end. And if you listen to today's episode or Tuesday's episode, I said at the beginning in the intro, I said, make sure you listen to Danny's, because Danny's interview is like a NSYNC lover and JC Chazet lover, like dream interview. And I think mine is really good as well. But that Sheena Shea moment. And then I texted Danny afterwards. I said, I texted Sheena right after this about JC. And she goes, oh yeah, we had fun. And then within 5 minutes, I have a photo of Sheena Shea and JC Chazet. And then yesterday, Sheena had me on her podcast and she went further into it. This Sheena Shea, she's like our Kevin Bacon, 6 degrees of Sheena Shea.
Oh my God, wait. So I need to hear Sheena's podcast now to hear what else she said about it.
Oh, Danny.
Okay.
I think it comes out today or tomorrow.
The whole
But I brought you. I was like, oh, Danny texted, and she was like, the Sheena laugh, like he. And then she provided more photos of them hanging out. And I was like, incredible. This is insane. And this is pre-Vanderpump Rules, you guys.
Right. And I don't even know if I've talked to Sheena about it when I've interviewed her before. I feel like we had talked about it maybe off air or something. And even with Sheena, I always forget to ask her on air about it. So like, it's been sort of this thing that's been in the ether and in my head that I'm like, I need more information about this. I'm glad somebody finally asked, because we needed it. But also Sheena is totally 6 degrees of whoever, because I do feel like Sheena, pre-Vanderpump Rules, her time in Hollywood, she was connected to a lot of random people, Jonas Brothers, John Mayer, JC Chazet. It's like so crazy.
Danny, I asked her, I said, back in the day when you would go to a club, would you see a celebrity and just beeline for them? And she's like, sometimes. And I go, was that like how it was with John Mayer? And she goes, no, he beeline for me. And I was like,
oh my God.
As a pop culture lover, you got to love that.
What's going on? What do you think's happening with Vanderpump Rules? Are they coming back? When are they coming back? I thought it was crazy to even think that they could not come back. And now I'm starting to feel differently.
I got to tell you, I've had a couple of things now that I'm starting to feel differently as well. And Sheena doesn't have a great poker face. And when you ask her directly on mic and off mic, what's the deal? She's like, no, we haven't really, because there's all these like articles out there, like they're in intense contract negotiations and there's a couple holdouts. She's like, no, not to my awareness at all. And that's why my prediction is that she's going to pop up on the Valley way more than anybody is counting on. And I slid that into the shenanigans thing a couple times of like, hey, do you and Jax get into a fight during the Valley this next season? And she was like, what? What? And then she like tried to backtrack. So I think that's what's happening. But sorry to like just over talk, but like I talked to Lala on that Jeff Lewis show a couple weeks ago, and it was such a weird interview because Ariana got brought up early, and then the whole hour was about Ariana, and she dug her heels in where it seems like there is no love lost. There doesn't seem like she has any interest in a friendship. And then I walked away feeling really sad going, wait, why would the show be coming back besides money at this point?
Right. I know it doesn't make. I thought for sure the ratings were still really good, even though creatively,
Amazing.
I think last season wasn't. We didn't like it, but they were still good. So I thought, of course, they're coming back. Why? It's the highest rated show the network has, and I still sort of feel that way. But there's so much time has passed, and it does feel a little bit like the cast is too separate now. And I worry about them going over to the Valley. I'm happy that I don't mind Sheena so much over there. I don't know. I'm worried. And I think Lala's only filmed a couple times or something. But I just think the Valley had something going so well for it the first season that it's like I'm a little concerned that we're rocking the boat a little too early with that. But prove me wrong. Great.
Yeah, and I love to be proven wrong, and I'm proven wrong all the time. Like, I didn't think this season of Salt Lake was going to be good, and it's my favorite show of the week on Bravo right now.
Me too. I know it's the best. It's the best. And Potomac, I was worried about, and Potomac this season has gotten back on track too. So it's like sometimes we think we know and we don't. We're just here talking last 2 episodes, acting like we know.
I know, right? We're pop culture commentators. The last 2 episodes of Potomac, I've been dying laughing at times. Yeah. I was like, wow, this is, you have that flow between cast members, and when you're not seeing flow, and especially on Bravo. So it really is kind of exciting that I'm like, oh, Potomac found its footing again as well.
Yeah, even looking at Stacy, she's the new cast member, right? Stacy on Potomac. Yep. Yeah, someone like that where I'm like, oh, I didn't think they could find someone like that. Like, that's always my favorite. Or Bronwyn on Salt Lake City, where it's like, oh, who's this type of person? Like, I sort of know some of their qualities and I recognize some of their traits in other people that I know, but like to see these people who are so unique still get cast after all these years, uniquely themselves in ways sometimes that I'm like, oh, I don't like that, or it's embarrassing or cringe or makes me angry or whatever. It's like, at least it's something different. At least it's like a unique presence on these shows.
But isn't that the thing too? I notice is like the things that upset me or makes me cringe. That's part of it as well. Like, it gets us feeling something. And if we all just felt one emotion, we'd be like automatons just watching. I mean, we're already watching the TV automatons, but we want that. We want that cringe factor. We need an element of that.
And I really believe cringe is great for these shows. All of these things are great for the shows as long as they're authentic. So like if somebody is authentically cringe in life, like that works as a housewife. I think no matter what, with authenticity, it's like you could be the biggest nerd or the coolest person in the world. As long as the audience feels like whatever that is authentically them and not just them trying to put on a show or something.
No, exactly. I mean, I think that provides this kind of, I mean, that's what it is. It's escapism, but you need different elements to actually be able to fully escape. With Bronwyn on Salt Lake, I always think about it when I see characters like that. It's like that scene in Back to the Future at the end with Marty McFly, and Marty McFly's wailing on the guitar at the dance, and Marvin Berry is like, hey, Chuck, you know that sound you've been looking for? Well, listen to this. And it's like Chuck Berry on the phone listening to Michael J. Fox wail on the guitar. And that's how I feel of like somebody like Bronwyn. These casting directors must be like, yo, I got the new sound right here. Listen to this. And that's how I always think about like people like Bronwyn,
Yeah. And I mean, we were all skeptical, or I can speak for myself. I was skeptical years ago when they said, oh, we're going into Salt Lake for a franchise. It's like, what? And then now I'm like, oh, well, it makes sense. Like, you get all these unique, authentic personalities in Utah that are great for reality TV.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I would actually trust them to open a franchise in any location. It's like a McDonald's. Like, yeah, I'll trust a McDonald's anywhere at this point. Like, I mean, I trust Bravo to a degree. Okay, to a degree. I don't want to. Okay, I don't want to blow their heads up.
No, and they've burned us in the past too. Believe me, there's things I do not trust those people on. We love them, but we also there's things that they've done me wrong in the past. I'll never forget when Camp Getaway was canceled, but that's neither here nor there. The point is,
Camp Getaway is the thing that you're holding against them, not après ski, Danny. Come on.
I was the only one. I really still feel that I was the only one who watched Camp Getaway. I don't believe that anyone else actually watched it. Maybe there was 10 of us. I'd say there were 10 of us, and the 10 people out there know who they are, but the 10 of us, we were there every week. We were in the trenches. And so, sometimes you get addicted to these shows and then they take them from us. And that'll be something I'll never forgive Bravo for.
As you move up in the industry through the years, is there a chance we might get a Danny Pellegrino's Camp Getaway? Like,
Oh
I
my
mean,
God,
like you reboot it and you put your name above it, like a Ryan Murphy production kind of a thing.
I would love it. I still think there would only be 10 people that would watch that. If it was Camp Getaway, Danny presents Camp Getaway, but I would love that.
Yeah.
I pitched years ago. I pitched a reality show to Bravo. This was, I don't even know if my podcast had started yet or whatever, but I did pitch one, and I wouldn't have been in it. It was like this other, I don't know if I can really say much, but it was, yeah, it would have been great. It would have been a great reality show, but they didn't take it.
To the audience out there listening, you might not sometimes understand certain pitching something. And what that is, I mean, us people that have been kicking around in Hollywood, how these shows get made, reality shows, linear storytelling, any kind of thing, you have to pitch them to the producers or to the network. And it's this whole process, and it can be really heartbreaking and soul crushing. And for every Hallmark film that you see about to come out on November 29th, there is a litter of things that have been rejected that you don't know about, that everybody puts their hearts and souls into. Like you just said, you pitched a reality show. I know other projects you've pitched, and I gotta then just talk about the Hallmark movie for a second, because Danny, is this your Good Will Hunting?
Yes. Yeah, it's exactly yes. I am both Ben Affleck, Robin Williams, and Matt Damon in this scenario. No. Yeah, I love this movie. It's so cute, and I'm so proud of it. And I have been writing for a long time, and there's projects that I've had that have gotten close, or I've sold projects that haven't gotten greenlit, or that are still waiting, or looking for financing now. Or there's been so many different projects I've had in various phases, and it's been kind of devastating. And also it's hard to let people know, writing wise, it's hard for people to understand that, because sometimes you could be like, oh, I'm working on this project and I'm kicking my ass. I'm working so hard on this thing, and I'm putting all of my creative juices in it, and then it doesn't go, or it gets held up for years, or it gets caught up in casting. So you get a great actor attached, but they're not available or yet, or, there's a million different reasons why things don't go, or they get slowed down. And so, the Hallmark movie, I was so thrilled, because this was a dream come true project for me, and it moves really quickly too, in the best of ways. So it was like we got that green light, and it was so exciting. And I think
you shot in Utah, right?
We did. We shot in Utah earlier this year, and yeah, it was beautiful. And I was going, of course, throughout Utah, talking about Salt Lake City Housewives. I'm like, okay, where did they filmed that there, and they filmed that there, and we were up in the mountains filming. So we were like an hour outside of Salt Lake, but I did get to go to the Beauty Lab and Laser parking lot.
Oh, I mean, that's a must for anybody that lives in Salt Lake at this point. Also, Mary Cosby's church, I would love to check out. I would love to check wherever the two men had their smashed potatoes the other week. John Barlow and Justin. Good. Well, I mean, but Danny, isn't it funny? What a perfect scene, in the summation of male feelings of two men not knowing how to share their feelings. So John's like, I hear the smashed taters are good here. And then Justin's like, yeah, I'm in on the smashed taters. That's sometimes as much emotion as you'll get out of a man, but inside they're feeling all the feelings, and I just want to hug you, man. I just want to say, I'm sorry,
Totally.
Okay, so I wanted to read the log line for Deck the Walls that Danny has written, and it says, Rose is a Chicago-based interior designer whose brother Sal is responsible for a Christmas charity house flip back in their suburban Ohio hometown. When a budget crisis puts this important project in danger, Rose reluctantly returns during the holidays to try to save the day. Not ready to face the ghosts of her past, Rose's plan is to get in, get it done, and get out ASAP. But before she knows it, she is face to face with Bryson, her brother's best friend, contractor, and who just so happens to be the bane of Rose's youth. With the help of friends and family, and buoyed by the season of giving, the trio figures out a way to work together for this worthy cause. As Rose works, she discovers unexpected love and a deeper purpose along the way. That is that is what you want out of one of these holiday films.
I know. And let me say, I know some of the people out there, if they're only loosely familiar with Hallmark Christmas movies, I think they probably heard that description. They're like, oh my God, another big city gal goes back to her hometown and she falls in love with her hunky construction guy from her youth. And it's like, yes, that's exactly right. You did hear that correctly. I very much wanted to do a classic Hallmark Christmas movie with that in mind, to also have to bring me to it, to bring Danny to it, and to kind of flip certain tropes or certain things that you know from these movies. So, you read that description. I just want to point that out. It's like, yeah, I hope some people were rolling their eyes thinking a big city gal coming back to her small hometown. And then I hope they watch the movie and see some cute different twists and all that kind of stuff.
First off, I love tropes, but also tropes really fly when a person's voice is inserted into those tropes. So that's why it's like, we are excited to hear Danny's voice doing this. I've talked to the audience about this a couple of times, because I was saying like, oh my God. And, but I was like, I look up to you so much because for so many reasons, but one of them is that I know you truly love Hallmark holiday films. Like, I know that is a passion of yours. And I've had so many teachers through my life is like, follow your passion, like follow and like, create your own content. And like, you went out and wrote something of a genre that you love. So you wrote something, but then how did you end up getting to like guest star or to act in it?
Well, I originally I had met with Hallmark because I do love these movies, and I had gotten a meeting with them because when I had finally gotten an agent and a representative's manager, and I had told them the very first thing I said was like, I want to do a Hallmark Christmas movie. I love these movies. I've watched them with my mom my whole life. I don't care. This isn't a knock on them because they were fantastic, but I wasn't about money or likes or clicks or any of that stuff. It was just, I genuinely, like you said, love these movies. So I had got my reps were able to kind of get me a meeting with them. And then they kind of have their stable of people that they work with. They have writers and stuff that they use all the time. And so sometimes, like you said, with pitching, sometimes you'll go and pitch an idea and they'll say, oh, we love it, we'll pay you to go write it. And then other times they say, it doesn't work that way. So in this case, after that meeting, I went and just wrote the movie, just what they call on spec. So I wasn't hired by Hallmark.
You weren't hired. You just did it to do it.
I just was like, I'm going to just go sit down and write it. And then luckily the Hallmark people liked that script. And so they acquired it. And then they brought on Tracy Andreen to kind of help. I keep saying Hallmarkify it, but she's a writer that they have sort of in their stable of writers. And I got to work with her. And I also produced the movie. So I got to work with Tracy. And then getting the script kind of in that shape for shooting. And then I didn't know if I would get to be cast. I had written the role for me. It's Ashley Greene plays my sister. And
Ashley, great Twilight of all. How amazing is she that she's in this?
I know, but I had to go through all the casting separately. So I had to go through the casting agents without them sort of knowing that I had written the movie or anything like that, because I think understandably so, I don't have a large resume of acting stuff. I have, that I've acted in the past and I've done groundlings and stuff like that, but I think most people know me as a podcaster. And so I had to do my audition. I work with Flea Fasano, who I think
love.
She's a great casting director,
Fasano,
but her and I worked together. She helped me. She came over the house and helped me with the scenes. So even though it was like stuff that I wrote, I still had to send in my self-tapes and I still had to go through casting, both the Utah casting as well as the Hallmark casting. So
are you telling me you're like Tori Spelling auditioning for 90210 for Aaron Spelling, but you're both parts? You're Aaron Spelling and you're Tori Spelling in this scenario?
I guess, sort of. I guess I've always wanted to say I'm Tori Spelling in this scenario, so that feels right. But no, yeah. So I had to go through all the casting and stuff, and I didn't know I wasn't cast until very shortly before we went off to film it. So I think maybe like a week or two beforehand, it was like, okay, you got the role. You're going to Utah for a month. And I was like, oh my God, I was so excited. But it was understandable because it's a very large role in the film. And so I understand why they wanted to make sure that I could handle it. And there's a lot of I think people are going to be surprised because initially I wrote the character to be sort of the clown in the movie, to come in the the Bonnie Hunt, Judy Greer role where you get to come in and say something sassy or silly or funny. And then as the script sort of evolved with Hallmark, the role really even expanded more. And so it was so creatively fulfilling to get to do all the other sides of the acting. So not just come in and be the clown, but I also get to be earnest and dramatic. And I have a romance and a love story. And there's so many different elements that I think that I know were really creatively fulfilling from the acting side of things. So I'm excited for people to see it. And I hope people think I did a good job or an okay job.
I mean,
I think it's fun.
I am so excited to see this. I haven't been able to watch a screener yet because it's not available to watch yet.
I know we're hoping to have them like this. I'm hoping to have them like very, very soon. And I'm so excited to share with people.
Well, and this is just from a pop culture lover's geek standpoint, is that today we woke up and Danny got to post that Entertainment Weekly, one of my favorite magazines. I wish there was more in print, but they did something that I always loved Entertainment Weekly's first look, because it would give you a look at a project, whether it be a movie or a TV show, and you're like, ooh, that's coming up. And they did an Entertainment Weekly's first look for Deck the Walls, and we get to see photos of this. We get to see Ashley Green, the love interest. We get to see Danny. And what I'm guessing, like, I love looking at pictures and guessing like, okay, so it looked like you and potentially your partner or boyfriend in a doctor's office. That's what it looked. The picture, I don't want to spoil anything, and I could be completely wrong, but there were like diplomas on the back, and I was like, oh, I bet they're going to see about maybe they're adopting a child, maybe they're doing, I mean, what are we doing at the doctor's office? But I love those first look photos. So I was like so excited to see that this morning.
Yeah, it's going to be really cute. I mean, there's no doctor office. I'm trying to think.
Oh, I was totally wrong.
There's no doctor's office, but we may or may not have been in the mayor's office in one of those photos. But
okay, guys, I was really wrong on that one. Sorry, guys.
No, but it's great. Wes Brown plays sort of my best friend and business partner, and he's the hunky construction worker that Ashley comes back home and gets to know again after some time away. And then Claiborne Elder, who people might know from The Gilded Age. He played John Adams on The Gilded Age on HBO. And he's also been on Broadway. He was in Company with Patti LuPone. But he plays sort of my arch nemesis who maybe becomes something else throughout the film. We don't know. You have to tune in November 29th. But and Carolyn Hennessy, who's from General Hospital, she plays my aunt. And so it's a great cast, and I think there's some really funny stuff, and I think people who listen to my podcast there might be some little Easter eggs and stuff, different turns of phrases or stuff that they recognize. But I really think anyone who wants to just sort of check out mentally from the holiday season can tune in and enjoy. And it's really sweet. It's like romantic, cheesy. Really, there's some stuff in there that I think is going to be really funny. I'm really proud of it.
You say check out for the holidays, but I think check out for the year. Like, this is what we need right now. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I'm running towards. So I think it is the perfect time to remind you of so many things out there, all of the good things out there. And I wanted to bring up once again, The Jolliest Bunch, because, unhinged holiday stories now in paperback. This is the perfect time, if you haven't read it, to read it. If you have read it, reread it again. And also what I do is I have the audiobooks for both of Danny's books, and I'll hike either to a new book. I'm listening to Al Pacino's autobiography right now, which I highly recommend.
I need to listen to that.
His voice performance is so good, but yours and I'm blanking on my David Sedaris. I will listen to you and David Sedaris, and I was,
thanks, Ryan.
Man, the one that, God, I still lose it every time I hear the Jessica Simpson edible body lotion story. There's a story that Danny, he's a little tipsy, and then he goes into the bathroom and starts potentially eating Jessica Simpson edible body lotion, and he gets he gets really sick. But every time I'm hiking, I'm not a big laugh out louder in real life. I do on the podcast, but I will laugh when I'm hiking, because it is, to me, the most insane story, but just shows you that we have really insane stories in our lives.
Thank you. I'm so proud of The Jolliest Bunch. It's on paperback this year, and I'm working on, it's a little naughtier. The Hallmark movie is, of course, Hallmark, but I'm working on turning Jolliest Bunch into a movie too. So hopefully, I don't know if anyone out there wants it. I got a script that's just about ready. So hopefully we can get it going somewhere. But I love that. I'm so proud of that book.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking too, like with the collection of stories, I was like, God, we need like an Everybody Loves Chris, like based on Chris Rock's life. Like maybe there's an Everybody Loves Danny, or maybe there's a, and I don't know if you can say, but is the third book already in development?
Yeah, I've started writing a third book, but it's just going really slow. But I have sort
Yeah.
of the framing of it, and I have written some of it, but it's just going a little slow. I've been just a little crazed with other stuff, but it will eventually.
What did you learn through the creative process of not only writing this, but then actually producing, casting, acting, going through this whole process? What did you learn?
I mean, so much, so everything. I felt like it was a everything. I think going to set, I didn't know what to expect because I've again only acted. I've done scenes here or there in independent stuff or student films or I've done a lot of theater on stage stuff with Groundlings or Second City in
Yeah.
Chicago, and so this was the first kind of big production in that way, and also there was just the speed, the pace of it, the acting of it, and I didn't even know getting onto set. I thought I'm gonna have to memorize the whole script. Like I didn't realize, even though I wrote it,
Yeah.
I still thought like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? I have to know all of these pages for let's say Monday, but then I also have to know Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. How do I memorize everything, or how do I prepare everything? And so like I thought going into set that first day, I was like, I have to have everything memorized for the whole shoot. So it was like even little technical things like that, or technical terms and stuff on set. It's like it's much different coming in for one scene versus kind of the arc of the whole movie. So that was a challenge, but also really exciting. And yeah, so I just felt like I
Yeah.
was so, and then learning kind of what these movies, what makes them work, and seeing how they set design. And I was watching everyone on the crew, or the director. How does the director
Yeah.
encourage the actors, or how to encourage them to go a different way, or how does the prop guy refill we're at dinner scene. I'm like watching them refill the glass of water that I keep drinking, or those kinds of things. So it was like everything I didn't know. And luckily I felt so lucky that the cast was like pretty patient with me, and because I was worried I would go in and like not know how to do something or not know a term or something. And the other actors, Ashley or Wes Brown's the other male lead, and he has done a million of these. I was like, what if he gets so impatient with me? Or what if he's annoyed? Like this guy doesn't know what he's doing or can't figure it out. And everyone's so nice and patient and great.
Two things I was thinking about in terms of like Hallmark films, or I've worked on a couple Lifetime films, and they don't have the luxury. Like I was reading this book about Stanley Kubrick, and he would do one scene over like 4 weeks, like literally one scene, and sometimes one angle because he just wanted everything in the perfect. And a lot of other shows they don't have that luxury. You got to make your days. You got to make sure you're finishing like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 pages of a script in a day, which sounds like a lot, but like you got to make your budget. You got to make your time. And so it really is this kind of pressure situation when that's why like crews should be celebrated so much on these projects because they really make these things go. But you are under a time crunch on this.
Yeah, they're so quick. I mean, you're sometimes doing 10, 11, 12 pages a day, which is a lot. And so you don't know. That was the other thing that I loved off of it was that you didn't have too much time to get in your head about things. You had to just sort of make a choice and do it. There wasn't time to just sit around and think, what should I do here? Or can we do it this way or that way? It's like, you just have to kind of go with it. But I thrive as an improviser. I think I thrive off of that. And I felt very lucky. Our director was Jake Van Wagner, and he comes from a comedic background. And so he also gave us some space to play around and find new silly jokes and stuff. And I think that's what is going to be so special about it. And I kept asking Wes, who I mentioned, he's done so many of these, Wes Brown. So throughout the filming, I kept sort of turning to him. I was like, this feels really good. Is this like, seems like it's going well, right? And he's like, yeah, like, so it was reassuring, but I had to keep turning to them and being like, is this going good, right? Or even though this is quick, this is turning out good, right? Like,
I mean, well, you are like a supremely humble person, but was there ever a moment when you're in a scene where you're like, LOL, I wrote that. This is great. I'm almost dying here.
there's a few lines that I think people will probably catch that. They'll be like, oh, that's a Danny thing. So
Yeah.
there's a few lines like that where I can't wait for people to see and hear. But then also there was a moment, there's a singing bit. I do sing in it, which I shouldn't be singing because I'm tone deaf. And that's sort of the joke. I'll tell you this story really quick.
Shout out Lisa Barlow.
I'm going to tell you this story really quick so people can watch out for it. But so there is a singing scene, and sort of the joke in it is that my character and myself can't sing. And so when I wrote that, I thought, oh, that'll be like a funny little quick cutaway. It's a tiny little moment. But what I didn't realize was that filming a movie, I didn't have the backing track of the music. I had to sing a cappella, and I'm singing to like 70 extras or something. So there's like a lot of people, extras, that they just signed up to be in a Hallmark movie. They didn't know what it was about. They didn't know who my character was, anything. And I had to go sing 2 different songs to them, royalty free, which also means that you have to change certain lyrics. So like for 12 Days of Christmas, I forget what they had to coach me. There was like a musical guy who had to coach me because I wasn't allowed to say on the 12th day of Christmas. You have to say the 12th day of Christmas. So the copyright is like on the, does that make sense?
Yeah. So Danny doesn't get sued by Christmas, you know?
Right. So I'm having to think of that. And then I'm looking at all these faces stare at me. And I think people who sign up to be an extra in a Hallmark Christmas movie, if they hear that the actor is going to be singing at them, I think they're going to think that the actor is going to be good, right? Like you would assume that. But I wasn't. That's the joke. And so I'm singing at these people and they have no fucking idea that I'm supposed to be bad and that I am just naturally bad. And I was just sweating. But yeah, having to sing a cappella, when I wrote it, I didn't think I was going to have to sing both songs, full versions, a cappella to all these strangers. And then I got there and I was like, why did I write that? But I think it'll turn out really funny. But that was the thing where it was like, that wasn't exactly in my head, but as long as people are laughing, I don't care. And I think hopefully we'll get a good laugh, but that was something I was writing. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that I would have to do that.
You couldn't pay me to sing even in my normal life. Like I can't even imagine doing it in front of like people that are like extras. Like I can't, like that just gives me like, I'm sweating now.
And Ryan, it's in front of Claiborne Elder, who I mentioned. He's the one of the other actors in it, who comes from Broadway. He tours singing. He was just singing with Patti LuPone. Like he's an incredibly accomplished singer, and I'm singing at him a cappella. And also I'm thinking like all of people who love Clay are going to be like, why the fuck is Danny singing and not Clay?
But by the way, what if you don't see the final edit and they've totally auto-tuned your voice? They're like,
I would understand it. Because I can't sing. But I think hopefully it'll get a laugh. As long as people laugh, I don't care.
I know they are. I want to move on to a couple of other things. Listen, pop culture is our passion, our love. And I wanted to know, first off, I woke up to this, that Martha Stewart is celebrating her 100th book today. You have 2, so you've got 98 to go, Danny. But did you watch the Martha Stewart documentary?
I did. I loved it. And what's so fascinating to me, you mentioned the book. I was just on TikTok and I was seeing her old ones, like the books from the 90s, are like a thing with Gen Z now, or they're all like picking up the old books and they're going for hundreds of dollars on eBay because people are kind of taking a lot of what she did and decor wise and bringing it into today. But the books are impossible to get, her old ones. And I loved the documentary. I thought it was fantastic. I mean, I always love when it didn't feel too polished. It felt like, we're getting like a realistic version of Martha, even though she came out afterwards and was like, I didn't like this about it. I didn't like that about it.
Which is so Martha. I love that.
Martha. I just thought it was fantastic. I loved it.
I keep thinking about that story in the Duomo where she's on her honeymoon and she makes out with the guy in the Duomo because she was overtaken with emotion. And she was like, it was just the circumstance. And when it's Martha Stewart, you're like, of course it was just the circumstance. Of course you had to make out with the guy on your honeymoon. Yeah.
I was just talking to my friend Jenna about that we have a holiday movie podcast and we were talking about the Martha Stewart documentary. And I was saying that scene in particular was so fascinating. And there was something kind of revolutionary about her saying that to me, where it was like, she didn't feel like she was cheating when she had that kiss on her honeymoon. She's like, everyone should have a night like that. And there was something about her framing it that way of like, oh yeah, like she wasn't running off with this other person forever. She just had a great night. And I was like,
I mean,
that somehow made sense to me. Not that I'm going to
and,
cheat on
and it
that, but
yeah,
but if a
Matt,
hot guy, if I was in Italy and a hot guy wanted to have a kiss that night, I'd be like, okay, maybe not on
Matt's
our
like, you are
honeymoon.
never going to Italy. By the way, now I want a Danny Pellegrino travel book, like Danny in Italy, the lost years.
God, it would just be
Um,
me eating through Italy. I went and sleeping and eating.
um, also, this is exciting. We are on the eve, potentially, I think, of People's Sexiest Man Alive. The only, I guess, election that really matters in this country is who is going to be the sexiest man alive. Do you have any predictions in your head, or who do you think is the sexiest man alive this year?
I mean, I've been feeling for a while it should have been Jonathan Bailey, but I don't think he is, only because I thought I read that he's in the issue, like they already announced that he's in the
Yeah.
issue as like something else. So I don't think it is him, but it's always tied to some project. So I feel like it has to be tied to someone from like Gladiator, Wicked, somewhere around there, like one of
Yeah.
these movies, I think.
Paul Mescal, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because it just makes sense. He's got Gladiator coming out, or Pedro Pascal is also in that. I feel like one of those guys, maybe, or if there's another movie coming out at the end of the year, but it's usually tied to some big press push, and it's coming out today. So I don't know. That's where my head went. I know some people are saying Travis Kelce, which also makes sense just culturally. But I don't.
Well,
I don't.
I would I would love to see Adam Brody. I loved Nobody Wants This. I thought,
Yeah.
I'm a straight dude, but I thought he was incredibly sexy in that. Even
yeah.
like, I was like, God, he's been around so long. I thought he would be great. I don't think Glenn Powell has anything coming out right now, but he had a really big year.
good,
So I
yeah.
thought maybe Glenn. Oh, by the way, you said Travis Kelce. They got voted in another poll, him and his brother, as sexiest podcasters of the year.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Were you personally offended by this at all?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Recount.
Well,
We need to demand a recount for the two of us.
well, not even for me. I'm saying for you, Danny. I feel you have a project coming out. You should have been sexiest podcaster of the year.
Yeah. I don't know if they're really highlighting me or interested in that, but I always loved that issue. Last year was Patrick Dempsey, right? He was the reigning champ.
I believe so, but listen, these sexiest men, I've been alive for so long now. I've been inundated with sexiest men of the year since I was a kid. So they kind of come and go. And then there's always like a surprise one, or like, I don't think it's going to be Zach Bryan this year. He's in a kind of a kerfluffle, obviously. But I think it'll be tied to whatever project a big movie is coming out. So I think Paul Mescal, I think you're dead on the money with that one. Also, you just recently saw Taylor Swift in New Orleans. Is that true?
I did. Yeah. I went to the Eras tour. My boyfriend and we were in New Orleans, and we got tickets, or he got tickets, and we had the best time. I mean, the best time.
Yeah. Wasn't it great? I got to see it this summer, and it really did just kind of blow me away. It's a spectacle. And I say that with like the most complimentary tone I can. It really kind of blew me away. Like a 3+ hour show where she's out there doing it.
I honestly don't know who, or I don't think there's that many people that I would be interested in sitting 3.5 hours for. And I'm sure a lot of people out there are saying, I don't want to sit 3.5 hours for Taylor Swift, but it is like a show that I couldn't believe. Sort of 3.5 hours went by, and I'm like, oh, that was great. It didn't feel too long to me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But it's also kind of like, God, I love being exhausted after I leave something as well. Like, I'm like, oh, wow, I got my money's worth. This is great.
Yeah, I know. It makes me appreciate her songs more too. I think seeing her, there's like certain songs that maybe I passed over, wasn't really that interested in it, and then seeing them live, I'm like, oh, I love that song now. And so I'm fully now admitting that I've converted to become a Swiftie, because after seeing the show, it's like, yeah, I love her music.
I just had this Rolling Stone writer on, Rob Sheffield, who's written a bunch of great books as well, but he has a new Taylor book called Heartbreak is the National Anthem that comes out this week, which I loved. But I was thinking about you when I was reading it, because I was like, would Danny, and I don't think this is on your agenda at all, but if you had like one, not a bunch of pop culture things to choose from, but one person in pop culture to say, I could write 170, 180 page book about, who would you choose at this moment?
I think I could. There's a lot. I could do a Mariah book. I could do a Jessica Simpson book. I mean, if I had, gun to my head.
If I gun to my head, Danny's fantasy is a gun to his head saying, write a Jessica Simpson book.
Gun to my head, somebody said that we'll pay you to write a Jessica Simpson book. I'd be able to do it in a weekend. But yeah, I'd say those two. Also, there was somebody else. Rosie O'Donnell. I always say, did you ever read the View book, Ramin
Yep.
Satuda? Yeah, I loved
I
that book.
listened to the audiobook. Yeah.
And I was trying to convince him. I was like, you have to do a Rosie O'Donnell show one or a live with. I think there could be a book like that would be great, where it was live with Regis and Kathy Lee, but sort of following live, like over the course, because there's been so much drama as they've changed co-hosts and stuff like that. So a talk show thing, I would love to. But see, I don't know if I would want to do it. I want to read it.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like, that's the thing, actually, even of doing the podcast of like this escapist with Bravo and all this stuff. It does, I'm not saying like I'm not complaining, but it sometimes does take the magic away of me sitting with a block of cheese on my couch, not taking notes or not trying to look at deeper meanings of what Heather Gay actually means.
Wait, Ryan, that actually, I want to ask you, what's the show that feels the most like a job for you to recap?
Well, I don't recap all of them. Like, I mean, because I always say like I want to, but I think right now Roni would feel like a job just because of the different, and I don't mean it's bad. It's just a different vibe. Like it's it's like an I want to say this with kindness in my heart. I just sometimes feel like when these shows are casted, you're then having to wait for a couple of years for them to actually form real friendships, for things to really pop off. And that's why a lot of the earlier seasons of Bravo truly worked, because out of the gates, they had relationships and you already were like, oh, I'm catching up to this formed relationship. So with New York, there have been moments, but I want to be swept away for 43 minutes, not swept away for like 5 out of the 43 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that for me right now, because everything else for me is kind of hitting. Even Below Deck Sailing Yacht is completely escapist for me. And I truly I look forward to it every week. What are the other things for you right now that you are finding? Like, what are your comfort shows? Doesn't have to be Bravo, but what are you escaping with lately?
I did love that Adam Brody show you mentioned. I thought it was fantastic. I binged it in a quick weekend. Loved it. This time of year, I really do. This sounds like a bullshit answer, but I do have the Hallmark channel on all day this time of year. And I'm like one of those crazy people who downloads like the sheet and checks off that I watch each new one.
You're going to be on the sheet. Can you believe that? You're going to be on the sheet?
But I do just put that on and that relaxes me. And I think, you don't have to think too much while you have those on. It's just like visuals annex, you could put it on mute and you're still just fine. So I love having that on. And then I don't know, I watch a lot of everything. I'm trying to think of what's really hit me lately. I love the English teacher show.
Oh yeah, Brian FX. Jordan Alvarez. I thought that was I was so, because the pilot was amazing, and then it actually kept that quality throughout the 8 episodes. And I was like, God, I thought this might get a little old, just like the tone of it, but they found new ways through the 8 episodes, and the surrounding characters are so good. I forgot her name, but the girl Stephanie that plays the other teacher, Stephanie, is so good in it. Like everybody, I highly recommend that on FX as well. I thought that was excellent.
Yeah, I know. I know a lot of those guys from Groundlings back in the day, and I'm so excited to see them doing so well, and so many friends pop up in that show. But I thought it was just so brilliant. And HBO, I love Somebody Somewhere, but I'm saving the current season, which is the final season. I know, which is devastating. Don't even get me started. But I'm trying to save all the episodes, so I haven't watched this season yet because I want to binge them all. But I am watching The Franchise on HBO. Have you seen that?
No, but it's like it's the same people that did Veep. I loved Veep, but like, is it worth getting into?
I like it, but I'm not like over the moon about it. But I do like it, and I feel like you get flashes of that Veep sort of brilliance, and I hope maybe it goes on because I feel like they could maybe get there. But I enjoyed enough to keep watching. Like I put it on each week, and I enjoyed enough. And Agatha All Along, I love too. I thought that was a great Halloween binge.
Well, now, and I don't know if but you probably, and this is very different than now what I watch on it, but I'm like 3 episodes away from finishing The Penguin on HBO, which is so dark. I mean, it's, if you like Godfather and all of this stuff, it's not it's Batman in that universe, but he never appears, and it is Colin Farrell disappears, and I've never seen such good makeup on film, but like I'm really into it right now, which is great to like kind of counterbalance the Bravo in my life.
I need to watch that. I've heard only good things about The Penguin. I'm going to binge it over the holidays or something, because I've heard that from a lot of people I trust have said, even if you're not interested in the Batman of it all, it's great.
I like that if there's snow, like there's like certain snowy scenes in The Penguin, so you could count it as a holiday show.
Well, Ryan, I mean, you know this, but of course, one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time is Batman Returns.
Batman Returns. Yep.
Yeah.
Batman Returns. One of the first times I talked to Danny ever was on his Patreon, and we did a Michelle Pfeiffer episode. And I think you've gotten to like talk with Michelle Pfeiffer or meet her. So my brain is not working, but man, first talk about like people had their first crush. Michelle Pfeiffer was my first pop culture celebrity crush. I was watching like movies like The Russia House with Sean Connery and Michelle Pfeiffer at a way too early of an age to watch those films, but I would watch anything with Michelle Pfeiffer.
I still keep holding out hope that someone one day will take that character of Selena Kyle with Michelle Pfeiffer and reboot it somehow, even if it's not super action based or superhero-y. I think there's still such a compelling story with that character that could be done.
They reboot everything else. They put Michael Keaton's Batman in the not so great Flash movie. So why not do? I mean, I think now is the time for Michelle Pfeiffer to reclaim Catwoman. I think we need that.
Yeah.
As we start winding down here a little bit, we got news today too, and I wanted to get your first reactions. Peacock has announced the new Bridget Jones movie will be airing on February 13th. Did you hear about this, Danny?
I did, and I literally have a tab open on my computer with the trailer. I haven't watched it yet because I saw right before we were recording here, I was like, oh my God, the trailer came out. I love the Bridget Jones movie, and I actually would go so far as to say that Bridget Jones's Baby is an underrated film. I think it's fantastic. I love which is the third one, I think, right? Yeah, the third one.
Yeah.
So this will be the fourth one. I love those movies. Love.
And Renee Zellweger, I don't want to say underrated because she's actually won Best Actress Oscar, but she has the amount of good films that Renee Zellweger has done, I don't think she gets nearly enough credit. And I don't know if she pulled herself back at a certain point to actually have a life, but like what a phenomenal actor. And she was one of the people that I got to because at the Burke Williams spa I used to work with, she would come in every day for like a seaweed wrap. And she was the nicest celebrity I've ever met in my life.
Well, first of all, I love that she would just do a seaweed wrap every single day. Like,
I know
that's such a celebrity thing to do. I just tweeted that she has like so many all-timers in her filmography. Like there's so many movies that you could point to as like stuff that'll live on forever. Like you could go from Chicago, Jerry Maguire, there's so many roles.
Empire Records.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot that kind of are under the radar with her where you're like, oh, Empire Records. I forgot she was in that. Or
yeah.
I forgot she was in Jerry Maguire. I forgot she did this movie. And there's so many like that. And she does have like a good ass resume.
Did you ever watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre she did with Matthew McConaughey before they were both stars?
No, I don't think I've ever seen it. No.
I mean, I don't know if I would recommend it, but it is just so funny that these this is like Matthew McConaughey's role right after he did Dazed and Confused. He admitted he wasn't an actor, like he was like falling into all of this. And then Renee Zellweger and him, and all of a sudden it's just like, it's so amazing to watch careers flourish and where the universe will take you. And I feel the same way about your career. And I always love having you on because I'm always like, this is what I want to see, Danny. I always try to push Danny for a talk show. I'm like, we can pitch it, dude, right after Watch What Happens Live. Or we could take it to other places. We could take it to TBS.
They don't want it. I've tried.
No, Danny, we've got to use your power now. This is the time to make the move. We need a Danny Pellegrino talk show. Period. Sorry,
your mouth to God's ears. Available.
Do you mind if we finish up with a little talking about OC and Salt Lake?
Yeah, let's do it. Of course.
What do you feel about Real Housewives of Orange County this season? We just had the first part of the reunion. Everything I think is going how I thought it would go, except I think Heather Dubrow is going way too hard. I feel like I'm missing a piece of the puzzle. How are you feeling this season?
Yeah, I felt similarly about Heather Dubrow. I don't know why she kind of went in so hard this reunion because I don't think she needed to. You know what as I was thinking about it, I wondered if maybe because she was in the chair that she was in, knowing Heather a little bit, just from watching her for so many years, I was like, I wonder if she got to that set and was like, oh, I'm on the end. I need to bring it. Because I don't feel like she needed to do that much to go after Katie and all that. It's like she ended on a pretty good note. I mean, not a perfect note, but she had enough going on this season that I didn't even consider that Heather Dubrow might not be back next season. So I kind of feel like she could have just sat at that reunion and been like, just sort of coasted by. And so when she went that hard, I was like, is that because she got to that set and she was on the corner seat? It was like, I need to do something crazy. But I don't know.
I feel like it's also being on that with Tamra. I think Tamra brings that energy because you saw Emily going hard and you saw Heather going hard. And I just feel like Tamra's that person that like envelops you in their aura and you're like, well, I'm going to go for it too.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's been an incredible season. I don't have a lot of flaws from this season. Like to me, it was just completely entertaining throughout. There was both silly drama, serious drama. I felt like I laughed. I thought there was just a great balanced all around season. To me, it was one that I would go back to and rewatch, or if it's on, I'll rewatch it again. Like I thought it was great.
But when you hold up that to Salt Lake, I always tell the audience, I'm like, I mean, this is like in OC's super intense. I mean, there's you real feelings. Shannon Bedore fighting for her life every week. She's backed up, you know, in her bowels. Everything's happening to Shannon. And over on Salt Lake, I always feel like it's a John Waters film or a David Lynch Twin Peaks kind of vibe. And I crack up, even though I know there's like kind of real stakes. There's something so insanely silly about Salt Lake to me. But like OC, yeah, I thought they had a fantastic season. So I was getting yelled at because I was like, don't make any changes to the cast. In fact, keep Alexis on. I mean, I know I don't love her, but she provides something which is upsetting Shannon. She provides like Tamra. Like there are things these characters provide. Even if we don't like them, you got to like look at what they do for the show.
God bless Shannon for filming with Alexis this season. My only casting note would be if I was in charge, I would utilize Jugs even like a little bit less. Like I still think she should come back. I don't think we should get rid of Alexis, but I do think she should be just a touch less. Like my ideal would be like a 3-episode guest star for her, where it was 3 episodes, maybe one at the beginning, middle, end, something like that. That would be enough of her for me.
You know, in Ellen DeGeneres, the talk show, when she used to do that, like she would like scare people of people like jumping out of the box. That's what Jesus Jugs. You just have like Shannon's going about her day, and then Jesus Jugs pops out, and like just have like little moments like that next season.
Yeah, yeah. She infuriates me in her confessionals. Like I find her frustrating to listen to, but that's just a me problem, maybe. But whenever Alexis is in a confessional, I'm like, oh, I don't like hearing this. So that's why I would still like her to get the confessional. I'd still like her to come by and spruce up drama, but just like a touch less than this season.
Hey, as a gay man, is John Jansen hot?
No, Ryan, how dare you? How dare you?
I didn't know with the Ferragamo shoes and
No.
he was on Watch What Happens Live. He had the cool Johnny Depp scarf and stuff. I didn't know if that did anything.
Thinks he's Jennifer Love Hewitt in the Bare Naked music video with those skinny scarves. I'm always seeing him on Watch What Happens Live or wherever with those skinny scarves. I'm like, get out of here. I don't like that man. I don't trust him either because he's showing up at all these events on red carpets too. And you know,
Danny,
Ryan, you know that even if he's going to these events with Alexis, you don't have to walk the carpet to get photos. Most people wouldn't. If you don't want to be at, if you notice, you see a celebrity on a red carpet photo, especially when it's reality TV stars, you don't often see a photo with the husband because the husband oftentimes could be there, but isn't in the photo. They're not getting in the carpet for the photo. So when I see him on the show saying, or I see him on interviews or whatever, saying you don't want the spotlight or whatever, it's like, well, obviously you do. If you're on a red carpet, you didn't have to go take that red carpet photo. I've been to events with Matt where he's not coming on to take a photo somewhere.
See that I'm so glad you brought that up just because I always try to explain to the audience, like even with that JC Chazé interview, this isn't just like spur of the moment, like we're talking spur of the moment and whatever, but on some of these, you know, and especially for me, like, you know, if you're like up and coming and not up and coming, but in an industry, you want to play by the rules and all of this stuff. And that red carpet, I was at the Us Weekly red carpet on the red carpet asking questions. One of my first times doing it a month ago. And I was there when Alexis and Johnny J walked the red carpet, and Laura Marie Shane Halls was right next to me too. And I was offered them, but it had to be like super positive. And luckily, I think I was talking to somebody from another reality show. So, cause I was in my head interviewing people going, do I really want to talk to Johnny J? Like what positive question could I ask this?
Also,
but
like,
yeah, you're
that. Like screw that too. I mean, I know that's a thing. It's just so frustrating when it's like, okay, there's restrictions on interviewing John Jansen. Like, what is that about?
but you're right. He did not have to walk.
About?
He did not have to walk the red carpet.
If you want to interview him, then I'll ask whatever I want. Like, we're not talking about Julia Roberts here.
It is.
It's so mean to me, but I'm saying it's like crazy.
It is funny though, like because then it's like I take these things personally. Like if I don't like somebody, it's hard. Like it was even hard for me to talk to Jax that night, even though I thought it was a decent, but like Jax knows what to say. He's like such a pro at all of this stuff. But yeah, like I sometimes can't help if I don't like somebody. It's sometimes hard for me to like frame it in my head. And then I remember like Heather McDonald there and she's like hanging out with Johnny J and Alexis. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I cannot do it at all.
I know sometimes aren't you at one of these places and you're thinking, oh, wait, I hope they didn't hear what I said about them. And it's like, they don't, most of the time, they're not paying attention.
Most of the time, but Danny, you know, sometimes they do. I've gotten some things where I'm like, oh, they do listen, or so I always start the recaps now with like, if you're a housewife, do not listen to this show. You are bound to get and I don't want to hurt people's feelings. That's not my goal, but like, I'm going to say something stupid and it's going to stick in your craw and it's going to like, you can't help it. Like, I don't want to read bad things about myself. Damn it, Danny, you're so damn good and fun to talk to. The Jolliest Bunch is out on paperback right now. We did a giveaway last when this book first came out, and everybody that comes in contact with this book, it brightens their holiday, it brightens their life. And November 29th, we are all I'm going to be talking about this for the next couple of weeks leading up to November 29th. So we're doing a Danny Pellegrino countdown on So Bad It's Good.
I love it.
Who's coming up on Everything Iconic?
I don't have anyone coming up, to be honest with you, because I'm doing a bunch of press and some travel and stuff. So I don't have any fun guests, but hopefully after things settle down a bit, we'll have some fun people coming on. Yeah.
Well, you're one of those podcasts that people just tune in to listen to you. So I'm so damn proud of you. You inspire me every day. Like, listen, I mean, truly, I go into depressive states and I'll think like, this is, like follow the wave of the ocean, follow your heart, follow what you love. And I feel like you've done it once again with Deck the Walls, a Hallmark holiday film. And I'm so excited to see what you got next. Hey, maybe you even have something coming out with Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie. Who knows?
Yes. No, I'm very excited. That December 12th, I think the date's been announced, but I'm going to be in the Paris and Nicole show. So I'm so excited. I don't know what I'm allowed or not supposed to say about it, but it's December 12th. And I think it's going to be really great. Yeah.
Well,
Peacock.
You are going to start.
The Deck the Walls will be on Peacock that whole weekend. So the movie premieres November 29th, but then it'll be on Peacock that whole weekend. And then it'll also be airing on Hallmark Channel throughout the year. And then Paris and Nicole, I think it's called Paris and Nicole, The Encore, is going to be December 12th. And it's going to be really funny.
Well, baddies, we are going to have to do a group watch with all of those things. Danny, thank you for all of your time. And I'm so happy to know you.
Thanks, Ryan. I love you. And I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you for having me. To be here with